Claire and Greg Thompson seemed like the perfect couple until Greg vanished without a trace. What nobody expected was the chilling secret Claire was hiding, a secret that would unravel when police made a shocking discovery deep in the forest. In the quiet, tree-lined streets of Willow Bend, Claire Thompson was known as the perfect wife. She was always impeccably dressed, with a smile that seemed to brighten every room she entered. To the neighbors, friends, and even strangers, Claire and her husband Greg appeared to live an enviable life. They hosted barbecues in their manicured backyard, went on glamorous vacations, and posted countless photos on social media that captured their happy moments. Everyone believed they had a strong, loving relationship, but beneath the surface, things were far from perfect. Greg was a man of routine, an accountant who preferred numbers over small talk and rarely let anyone inside his private world. Over time, their marriage had quietly begun to unravel. The sharp conversations, cold silences, and sudden distance between them were things few outside their home noticed. Claire, however, felt the weight of those changes deeply. She had grown suspicious, noticing that Greg was guarding his phone like a secret, locking it every time she tried to catch a glimpse. He would step outside for mysterious phone calls and seemed distant, even when they sat together in the same room. The tension between them escalated when Greg started questioning her about their finances. Claire had always managed the household budget, but recently Greg noticed strange withdrawals and missing amounts that didn't add up. When he asked Claire for an explanation, she offered vague answers and avoided eye contact. The trust they once shared began to crack, and Claire's calm facade started to slip. Fear and desperation took root in her mind as she imagined Greg leaving her for someone else, or worse, exposing secrets she wished to keep hidden. One Friday evening, after a heated argument that echoed through the walls of their home, Greg disappeared. Claire told anyone who asked that he had left to clear his head, needing space after their fight. She posted updates on social media, claiming she was worried but hopeful he would return soon. Friends and neighbors sympathized with her, believing she was the grieving wife of a man taking a temporary break from a troubled marriage. Yet as days turned into a week with no sign of Greg, whispers began to spread. His brother, who spoke with him regularly, grew uneasy. Calls and messages went unanswered, and even his workplace had no idea where he was. The police were contacted, and an official missing persons report was filed. Initially, officers didn't suspect foul play. Adults often left without warning, and with no clear evidence of a crime, the case moved slowly. Despite the growing concern, Claire maintained her story with a practiced ease that masked her inner turmoil. She was careful to avoid contradictions, but struggled to control her anxiety. Surveillance footage from nearby shops showed Claire buying cleaning supplies days after Greg's disappearance, raising quiet suspicions among investigators. Meanwhile, the quiet house where they had built their life together held secrets no one else could see. The tension in Willow Bend thickened as neighbors whispered behind closed doors. The woman who had once seemed so perfect was now at the center of a mystery that refused to unravel easily. No one knew where Greg was or what had truly happened in those final hours before he vanished. Claire's calm began to crack, and the thin line between innocence and guilt blurred, setting the stage for the dark discoveries to come. As the days stretched on without any sign of Greg, the atmosphere around Claire grew heavier. Friends who once offered comfort started exchanging worried glances, sensing something was not quite right. Claire kept up appearances, attending social events and posting carefully worded messages online, but subtle cracks appeared in her story. Her timeline shifted slightly each time she recounted it, and small details she had overlooked began to emerge under the scrutiny of neighbors and police alike. The police increased their investigation, following every lead they could find. They spoke to people who had seen Greg in the days before his disappearance and reviewed hours of security footage from stores, gas stations, and traffic cameras. None showed Greg leaving the area as Claire had claimed. Instead, The footage captured her driving her SUV multiple times toward remote parts of the nearby forest reserve. The discovery of these movements sent a ripple of suspicion through the investigation team. Meanwhile, Claire's behavior became more tense. She was spotted purchasing large amounts of cleaning products and bleach from several stores, far more than a typical household would need. When officers later searched the Thompson home, they found the garage floor had been freshly scrubbed. The strong smell of cleaning chemicals lingered in the air, and faint, almost invisible stains remained on the concrete. Samples taken by forensic experts revealed the presence of blood, human blood. Despite the mounting evidence, Claire remained outwardly composed. She explained the stains as remnants from a recent painting project, a story that didn't quite convince the investigators, but left them needing more proof. In private, detectives worked tirelessly to connect the dots, piecing together a timeline that painted a picture far darker than Claire's public persona suggested. Greg's car was found abandoned in a secluded parking lot near the forest's edge. Inside, personal belongings lay untouched, the kind of items someone would take if planning a long trip. His phone was there, powered off, and his wallet still in the glove compartment. The absence of a struggle inside the vehicle puzzled the police, hinting that Greg had either willingly entered a dangerous situation or was taken by surprise. As the investigation deepened, detectives uncovered troubling details about the state of the Thompson marriage. Neighbors reported overhearing arguments late at night, and several close friends admitted that Claire had confided in them about feeling trapped and desperate. Financial records revealed that large sums of money had been withdrawn or moved in the weeks leading up to Greg S.'s disappearance, though Claire had given no clear explanation for these transactions. Throughout all this, Claire's narrative held firm. Greg had left to sort out his problems, needed time alone, and would return. But the contradictions, the evidence of cleaning and suspicious movements, and the discovery of Greg S.'s car painted a different picture, one where Claire's version of events seemed increasingly unlikely. The police also discovered that Claire had blocked several people from her phone and social media accounts, cutting off communication channels that might have revealed more about her intentions or state of mind. Friends began to distance themselves, unsure whether to believe her story or fear the truth lurking beneath. The community's patience wore thin, and rumors swirled like autumn leaves caught in the wind. Questions multiplied. Where was Greg? What had really happened to him? And most chilling of all, was Claire hiding something far worse than anyone imagined? The tension reached a breaking point when a local dog walker made a discovery that would change everything. Hidden beneath a thick layer of fallen branches and dirt in the remote part of the forest was a shallow grave, something no one expected, something that would soon force Claire's carefully constructed world to crumble completely. The discovery of the shallow grave sent shockwaves through the quiet town of Willow Bend. The dog walker, who had been enjoying a routine stroll through the forest reserve, stumbled upon the disturbed earth by accident. What looked like a small mound of freshly turned soil raised immediate concern. Authorities were alerted, and soon the area was swarmed with police officers, forensic experts, and search dogs. The investigation shifted from a missing person case to a potential homicide. When the grave was carefully excavated, the remains found beneath were in a state of decay, but there was little doubt about their identity. Forensic specialists worked quickly, using dental records and fingerprint analysis to confirm that the body was indeed Greg Thompson. The news spread rapidly, turning the entire community upside down. The man who had vanished without a trace was now found, but dead. And the question on everyone's mind was who could have done such a thing. The autopsy revealed brutal details. Greg's body showed signs of blunt force trauma to the skull, suggesting he had been struck multiple times. Additionally, there were clear ligature marks around his neck, indicating strangulation. The violent nature of his death shocked even seasoned investigators. It became clear that this was not an accident or a sudden disappearance. This was murder. More unsettling was the location where the body was buried. The forest reserve, while remote, was a place frequently visited by locals and hikers. The grave was shallow, hastily covered with dirt and branches, a crude attempt to hide the evidence but not enough to evade discovery. Tire tracks in the vicinity matched those of Claire's SUV, placing her vehicle at the scene days after Greg had gone missing. Confronted with these facts, Claire's carefully maintained composure began to unravel. Police questioned her intensely, but she remained silent, choosing instead to ask for legal representation. Her refusal to cooperate raised further suspicion and deepened the divide between her and the community. Inside the Thompson home, further forensic tests on the garage floor stains returned damning results. The blood was Greg's. This revelation confirmed that the crime scene was not just the forest, but had started at their own house. It appeared Greg had been attacked in the garage, bleeding heavily before being transported to the forest reserve and buried. Detectives also uncovered a chilling detail. Claire had cleaned the garage thoroughly just days after Greg's disappearance. The effort to erase any signs of struggle indicated premeditation. This was no impulsive act, but a calculated crime. As the investigation continued, police delved into Claire's financial affairs and communications. They discovered that Claire had taken out a large life insurance policy on Greg shortly before he vanished. Furthermore, they found evidence of an online relationship Claire had been maintaining with a man hundreds of miles away. Emails and messages suggested plans to start a new life with this man, including financial arrangements and references to solving her current problem. The picture that emerged was chilling. Claire, feeling trapped and desperate, had plotted to kill her husband, claim the insurance money, and escape to a new life. Her manipulation extended beyond Greg, involving others who had no idea of her true intentions. With the evidence mounting, the police prepared to present their case to the district attorney. The community watched in stunned silence as the woman they once admired was now the prime suspect in a brutal murder investigation. What had seemed like a perfect marriage was revealed to be a dark tale of greed, betrayal, and cold-blooded murder. As the trial loomed, Claire faced the undeniable truth that her actions had caught up with her. The life she had tried to maintain so carefully was unraveling, and the consequences would be far more severe than she had ever imagined. The discovery of Greg's body was just the beginning of a story that would shock the town of Willow Bend and the world beyond. The investigation into Claire Thompson's actions revealed layers of deception that stretched far beyond what anyone had imagined. As detectives sifted through her financial records, the true motive behind Greg's murder came into sharp focus. The large life insurance policy she had taken out was a calculated move, meant to secure her financial future after Greg's disappearance. The timing of the policy raised suspicions. It was signed just weeks before Greg went missing, an action that no innocent spouse would have made without raising alarms. Further digging uncovered that Claire had also been moving money through a series of secret accounts, hidden from Greg and anyone else who might have questioned her. These transfers coincided with large cash withdrawals, indicating she was preparing for a life on the run. Investigators discovered wire transfers to an unknown man living in another state, a person she had been in contact with through encrypted messaging apps. Their conversations hinted at plans to meet and start anew, far away from Willow Bend. Emails between Claire and this man painted a disturbing picture. She spoke about ending her current chapter and referred cryptically to needing to handle a situation. Though the man denied any involvement in Greg's death, the tone of the messages suggested he was aware of Claire's intentions, or at least complicit in her plans to escape her past. This connection became a vital part of the prosecution's case. Neighbors and acquaintances who had once sympathized with Claire now came forward with stories of her increasing desperation and volatile behavior. Some recalled moments when Claire admitted feeling trapped in her marriage, but never imagined she could be capable of murder. Others spoke of strange disappearances and late-night trips that didn't add up. The community was left grappling with the realization that Claire had been leading a double life. Behind her polished appearance and friendly demeanor lay a woman willing to cross any line to get what she wanted. Her ability to maintain the illusion of normalcy while plotting such a crime shocked everyone who knew her. As the trial began, prosecutors presented a detailed timeline that exposed Claire's calculated steps. They showed evidence of her cleaning the crime scene, the tire tracks near the burial site, the financial motives, and her secret communications. The forensic evidence was overwhelming: bloodstains in the garage, Greg's body in the forest, and her attempts to erase any trace of the crime. Claire's defense struggled to explain the inconsistencies and offered no alternative theories about Greg's disappearance. Instead, they painted her as a woman under immense emotional strain, hoping for leniency by highlighting her composed demeanor during the investigation. Throughout the trial, the courtroom was filled with tension as the dark details of Greg's final days were revealed. The prosecution portrayed Claire not as a grieving wife, but as a cold and calculating killer. The evidence of premeditation, greed, and betrayal was undeniable. In the end, the jury found Claire guilty of first-degree murder. The verdict was met with a mixture of relief and disbelief in the community. The woman who had seemed so perfect was now condemned for a crime that shattered the town's sense of safety. Claire was sentenced to life in prison without parole. As she was led away from the courtroom, the full weight of her actions settled over her. The freedom she sought through murder had been replaced by a lifetime behind bars, a consequence of choices driven by desperation and greed. The town of Willow Bend slowly began to heal, but the memory of the betrayal and loss lingered, a dark reminder that evil can hide behind the most beautiful masks. Claire sat in the sterile prison cell, the cold walls closing in around her as the reality of her situation finally sank in. Outside, the world moved on, but for her, time had stopped. The trial was over, the verdict delivered: life without parole. The carefully crafted lies, the manipulations, and the cold calculations that had once given her a sense of control were now stripped away, leaving her alone with the consequences. She found herself haunted most by a single moment that played over and over in her mind: the televised news report showing officers carrying Greg's remains from the forest reserve. For the first time since the investigation began, Claire saw herself on the screen, calm, composed, pretending to be the desperate wife searching for her missing husband. The contrast between the image she projected and the truth hidden beneath the surface was stark and inescapable. As she watched the footage, a quiet realization settled over her. The police had found him. They had uncovered the secret she had buried in the woods, the crime she had hoped would remain hidden forever. That moment was a turning point, not just in the investigation, but in her own consciousness. The facade she had maintained for so long was broken. Days in prison were filled with routine, countless hours of silence broken only by the distant noises of other inmates and guards. Claire's mind drifted back to the early days of her marriage, to the moments before everything unraveled. She thought of the fear that had consumed her, the desperation that pushed her to commit the unthinkable. Yet, with every passing hour, regret and sorrow crept in, mingling with a numbness that threatened to swallow her whole. The community of Willow Bend, meanwhile, struggled to move forward. Neighbors who had once waved and smiled now avoided eye contact, the memory of betrayal hanging heavy in the air. Greg's family mourned deeply, grappling not only with the loss of a loved one, but with the shock that the person responsible had been someone so close to him. Though Claire was removed from their daily lives, the echoes of her crime persisted. The news stories, the whispers, the unanswered questions about how such darkness could exist behind the mask of normalcy, all of it lingered. The town's innocence had been shattered, replaced by a hard-won awareness that evil can wear a familiar face. Inside her cell, Claire began to confront the truth of her own choices. The plans for a new life, the dreams of escape, the hope that she could outsmart the system, all had crumbled. She was left with only the memories of a life lost, the weight of her actions, and the cold certainty that some mistakes can never be undone. Though she would never confess publicly, the knowledge that Greg's body had been found, their secret unearthed, served as a silent punishment. It was a reminder that no matter how carefully one tries to bury the past, the truth has a way of rising to the surface. As the years stretched on, Claire faded from the headlines, but never from the minds of those who remembered. Willow Bend learned a difficult lesson about trust, betrayal, and the darkness that can lurk within even the most perfect facades. And in the quiet of her prison cell, Claire lived with the haunting realization that justice had finally caught up with her, and that some secrets are doomed to be found.